Okay, so making this in a bit of a rush, but I really wanted to get the 2020 Immortal 2026 video breakdown done now. So this is the Immortal 2026 breakdown. The key meta notes is our meta in Auckland is extremely diverse. We only had two double up decks, being that we'll talk about in a minute. Uh, Pretty rogue decks all around. There were some established decks. There was Kinnan, Rog Thras. There was a Ral player, a Rog Sai, right? Slop. We haven't really had much of that, but I think that's more so to player preference rather than Slop is bad in our meta. We're pretty creature heavy. We're generally slower and creature heavy again because it's pretty important to note that permanent based rather than non-permanent based. So our most popular partner is, and this is just across the board in most metas, being Rograk, son of Rogoth. And for non-partners, it's Yiva, Nature's Herald. Now, this is a bit interesting because we just have two people who play it and our sample size is pretty small. It's not stat sig, so to speak, but it's actually really interesting that mono green has the highest meta share out of any deck. A mono green deck has the highest meta share. So our color breakdown. This is including the intersection, so Simic decks count as blue and green for this, but it's important that going over to the next tournament that we keep the same measuring metrics. Blue, unsurprisingly, the most popular color. Force of Will, Force of Negation, all of that good stuff is blue. Um, Interestingly enough, I think black would be normally the second most because of access to Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, and Ad Nauseam, but it's weirdly enough green, probably due to the two Yeva players, as well as we just have a bunch of 5-color good stuff decks. So, permanent versus non-permanent decks, I counted permanent decks as permanents, getting a lot of permanents as the main thing of the deck does. Were mainly permanent based. Creature versus non-creature, this is only counting permanent base spells. Most of our decks in our creature-based decks, either for combos or for what have you, but this is a very interesting note comparative to the rest of the world. I think this is due to player preference rather than some undiscovered tech, because most of the decks that I looked at seem to be pretty standard versions of their lists. If the deck was established. If it's a one-off person playing it, there's no way of proving that. So board wipes. I think board wipes are actually pretty good. Placement, we can see going down. Decks that tended to play more board wipes performed better than decks that did not play board wipes. Cyclonic Rift is counted as a board wipe. But the crucial thing is that your board wipes can get around indestructible, so we see a lot of Cyclonic Rifts. And a few Toxic Deluges, I think that's a card to keep an eye on if you're playing more mid-rangey black deck in this given meta, is that Toxic Deluge can actually just shut out a lot of decks for the rest of the game. And with our Soul Outlier playing 4 board wipes and scoring very well, which we'll talk about in a minute. So our top 4, we're very value focused. Creature combos, yeah, most of the decks won through a creature combo. High color count, there was no 2-color decks. Everything was either 3 or greater. 3 of the decks were 3-color, and a lot of them were just playing high card quality. This is generally to be expected. So, Kenrith, this is a good stuff pile using Kenrith as the command zone, and Kenrith can initiate the Warren, Soul Trader, Chatterfang, infinite mana, draw your whole deck. Kenrith literally does everything, that's why he's good. But yeah, high card quality, and uses the commander effectively as both a value engine and as a piece of the win. So we have Daniels. Interestingly, Yarok is not an enabler for the game plan. He's kind of the payoff. As well as Yarok uses unconventional combos like Shrieking Drake lines. Yeah. And also, 30 lands is pretty high. I'd be interested to hear more on why 30 lands, but there is some landfall payoff, so that's probably why. We have Rog Ishai. This is a Rhystic Slop deck. It's a bit faster than other ones, but it's a Rhystic Slop deck. It aims to assemble value engines. And we have the 60 land Glarb. This is, no one really knows how to play against this. Tiago, who's the pilot, is insanely good at what he does, And for board wipes, again, talking about how board wipes are good. Um, and it's kind of just slow and omnipresent. If we look back at Kenrith, it's also doing everything. It's also doing everything at all points of the game. It's never down and out. Same thing with Yarok. Same thing with Raga Shot. There's no real way to shut these games. If they're just leave to their own devices, they'll inevitably put together a win. That they can take remove from one person and use that as the window to win. Yeah, I think that's everything.